Coming up on Network Africa. Kenya rejects the decision by the International Court of Justice to favor Somalia in a years-long dispute over the two countries' maritime border. The International Committee of the Red Cross say the conflict in Cabo Delgado is taking a huge toll on public health in Mozambique. Plus, influential younger brother of the late Algerian president Said Bouteflika sentenced to prison for obstruction of justice. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. The United Nations top court has awarded Somalia control of most of a potentially oil and gas-rich chunk of the Indian Ocean after a bitter legal battle with neighboring Kenya over their sea border. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, ruled on Tuesday that there was no agreed maritime boundary and drew a new border close to the one claimed by Somalia. Kenya has rejected in totality the decision by the court to favor Somalia in the years-long dispute over the two countries' maritime border.
The UN's top court ruled largely in favor of Somalia in a dispute with Kenya on Tuesday, setting a sea boundary in parts of the Indian Ocean believed to be rich in oil and gas. The case of the International Court of Justice, also known as the World Court, was brought in 2014 by Somalia. It concerns a disputed area of seafloor covering nearly 40,000 square miles.
The court, 1, unanimously finds that there is no agreed maritime boundary between the Federal Republic of Somalia and the Republic of Kenya that follows the parallel of latitude described in paragraph 35 above. 2, unanimously decides that the starting point of the single maritime boundary delimiting the respective maritime areas between the Federal Republic of Somalia and the Republic of Kenya is the intersection of the straight line extending from the final permanent boundary beacon, PB29, at right angles to the general direction of the coast with the low water line.
The new boundary drawn by the ICJ was closest to a line proposed by Somalia, attributing to it several offshore oil blocks claimed by Kenya. Somalia says the ruling was the result of sacrifice and struggle. Judge Joan Donoghue says Kenya had failed to prove there was already an established sea boundary, which would have given it a greater portion of the disputed area.
The court is thus satisfied that the adjusted line that it has established as the maritime boundary for the exclusive economic zone in the continental shelves of Somalia and Kenya within 200 nautical miles in the Indian Ocean described earlier achieves an equitable solution as required by Article 74, Paragraph 1 and Article 83, Paragraph 1 of the Convention.
Nairobi, which did secure some territory beyond the Somali claim, last week said it had revoked recognition of the court's jurisdiction. No one for Kenya was officially present. The court has said Kenya's withdrawal is not retroactive and does not affect Tuesday's judgment.
Cyrus Ombati, Kenyan journalist in Nairobi, joins us now for more on this. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you for speaking to us. Well, this is a ruling Kenya had already said it would reject even before it came. How has this been received in the country?
The ruling by ICJ was widely expected in the country because you remember last week Kenyan authorities had started talking about it even before it could come out, meaning most Kenyans were prepared for this ruling, from the president down to the common man. Remember, the Minister of Foreign Affairs had last week issued a statement saying they will not recognize, or whatever it is, the ruling that will come out of the court yesterday. So it was not unexpected. It was expected among many Kenyans on the outcomes that Kenya will, in one way or the other, lose the case. This is because, remember, Kenya never submitted in any way to the court on the case that was before the ICJ. So even when you look at the president's speech, it was written actually on Sunday. which was a day or 2 days before the ruling could come out, meaning they knew what was coming out. When you listen or you watch social media or so in TVs, you find that there's varies kind of the reaction is varying from one part to the other. Remember, in Kenya we have a big chunk of Somalis who live in Kenya, Kenyan Somalis, that is, and most of them seem to be supporting the ruling. But most Kenyans themselves, they're expressing shock, or rather they're expressing dismay in the entire ruling. They're saying Kenya should not recognize the ruling, even as the president has himself said.
Well, you know, this has been a legal battle between Kenya and Somalia. And with Kenya saying, you know, it does not recognize the court's judgment, my next question is, what next for Kenya after this? And who can even enforce the ICJ's judgment?
As it is, it remains just a ruling because Kenya said it will not recognize it. Remember, Kenyan Navy personnel are the ones now patrolling the disputed area. And if you look at the pleas by Somalia, they were saying that Kenya should be punished for they wanted reparations out of what Kenya has been doing on the disputed water. But then the court rejected the plea. As it stands, Kenya said they will not recognize it. And the president issued a statement this morning saying they will, if any, they will ask for African Union mediated kind of system to solve the dispute. But as it stands, they are saying there's nothing they will recognize out of that ruling. They're saying it was just a ruling as it is.
Well, Cyrus, just help us understand the implication of this new ruling on the relations between both countries, because we know some Somalis are living in Kenya.
The claim itself by Somalia meant that Kenya needed also to kind of redraw the maps, meaning that will lead into also encroaching into Tanzania's water territories. This could have caused a lot of international tension. So that's where we are up to now. Now, it's in as much as there's a bit of a jubilation inside of Somalia because of this ruling, many Kenyans feel it's not necessary. It's not an issue of that should be causing a lot of tension between the two countries, because these are neighbors and they share so much in terms of culture, they share so much in terms of trade. Kenya is the one which has made Somalia to be stable the way it is. So it's an issue of wait and see what happens next.
All right, then, we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you so much, Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati there. Or bilateral trade, continental trade, tourism and consular matters. These are some of the areas that will feature high on the agenda when South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa visits Nigeria next month. So says Nigeria's High Commissioner Ambassador Mohammed Manta, who presented his letter of credence to the South African president on Tuesday. We recall that Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari paid a state visit to South Africa in the heat of a tense xenophobic episode in the country back in 2019 October. Well, this return visit by President Ramaphosa is expected at the end of November.
It was a bit of a wait, but the submission of the letter of credence comes just in time ahead of the expected state visit of President Cyril Ramaphosa to Nigeria next month.
That's my greetings, my brother.
I will look forward to seeing you in Abuja very soon. In the next few weeks.
In the next few weeks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you.
We got a chance to get more details and expectations from that state visit from Ambassador Mohammed Manta at a reception held in his honor at the Nigerian High Commission in South Africa.
On the side of Nigeria, we expect that a lot of the consular issues will be addressed. Hopefully, we expect that the African Continental Free Trade Area agreement that has been initiated and initialed by our presidents and heads of state at the AU level will come into fruition, and we start seeing the fruits of that agreement. So the expectations are, of course, very high.
Given the sometimes frosty relations between both countries, heading a Nigerian mission in South Africa comes with a lot of expectations, especially from Nigerian citizens resident in the country. The new High Commissioner outlined some of his priorities regarding this.
The binational commission, that is to say, we have a binational commission between our two countries, which is usually chaired at the highest level of the heads of state and government. Second area of priority is, of course, the consular aspect. We have a lot of Nigerians in South Africa who, due to commission or omission, are no longer in possession of valid Nigerian passports. I have mapped out a robust nature of evolving an intervention policy. The third area is, of course, educational. We have a lot of Nigerian students who have either completed their studies, they wish to go back home, and due to one reason or the other, they are unable to do so, particularly the impediments placed by COVID-19 protocols. Similarly, we have students who have gained admission and are pursuing all other preparations towards resuming in South Africa. But they cannot easily do so because of the stringent visa conditions from Nigeria.
Ambassador Manta arrived in South Africa at the end of July, and at the few events he's attended since he arrived, he has said he hopes to do much more to strengthen the ties between Nigeria and South Africa, both at government-to-government and citizen-to-citizen levels, with the help of law-abiding Nigerian citizens in the country as well. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
The United Nations has recalled a second senior figure from its operations in Ethiopia over controversial remarks about the war in the country's north, in a move that could deepen already troubled relations with the government in Addis Ababa. The UN's Population Fund head, Dana Gale, is the second top official to be recalled this week. She follows the international body's migration chief, Maureen Achieng, who was put on administrative leave. It is after both women complained about figures within the UN who they said were sympathetic towards rebel forces in Tigray in a leaked audio clip. The Ethiopian government has a fraught relationship with aid agencies, including the UN, which accused it of blocking aid to Tigray. Last week, 7 UN officials were expelled by the government after it said they meddled in its internal affairs. The influential younger brother of the late Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika has been sent to prison for 2 years for obstructing the course of justice. Mr. Said Bouteflika was sentenced alongside the former Justice Minister Taib Lou and a businessman Ali Haddad. Mr. Lou will serve 6 years, while Mr. Haddad will be in jail for 2 years. All 3 of them were detained after President Bouteflika was forced from office in 2019. Still to come on the program. An Egyptian woman with severe burns takes on stigma through modeling and creating awareness in the society. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. The director of ICRC operations worldwide, Dominic Stillhart, says the impact of conflict and extreme weather conditions in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province is a threat to public health in the region. About 750,000 people remain displaced by an Islamist insurgency, many of whom live in crowded conditions with little or no access to safe water, sanitation and health services. Widespread displacement in Cabo Delgado, northern Mozambique, has put an enormous strain on existing water and health facilities, some of which were previously damaged by extreme weather events. Agencies say shortage of safe water, poor sanitation and inadequate medical services are a looming threat to public health for displaced people and the host communities. Dominic Stillhart, Director of Operations for the International Committee of the Red Cross, who was on a tour in Cabo Delgado, said many people have no access to clean water supply.
People from all over the part of this town, with many IDPs, they have to walk up to an hour to fetch water from here. This is the only spring, and you can see it's an unprotected spring. There is washing going on, and you can really see here why, for instance, cholera is such a big issue in this town.
The country has been facing the compounded impact of armed conflict and climate change in recent years, which has taken a toll on people's health. According to the World Health Organization, the number of cholera cases in Cabo Delgado at the beginning of August 2021 was 3,400, compared to about 2,200 from the same period last year. Diarrhea has become a major cause of death among children under 5, and COVID-19 represents an additional risk, partially associated with the lack of hygiene. About 80% of health centers in the 9 most conflict-affected northern districts of Cabo Delgado are also not functioning.
We find already areas which were extremely vulnerable, which were already struggling to deliver service to the existing resident population, and now they see this massive arrival population. So there are obviously 2 axes where this manifests in a most dramatic way. One is the health services, and the other is water supply.
The ICRC is working with local authorities to rehabilitate existing water and health infrastructures and also build new ones. They are currently constructing a new hospital in Ibo, a 30-island archipelago.
We spoke to people here who have been displaced multiple times in the past 12 to 18 months, and there is a very serious need to provide more support here in this area of the north of Mozambique.
Because the country's coastal areas are vulnerable to climate shocks, the agency's new rehabilitation and construction projects are built with resilient infrastructure to prevent potential damage from natural catastrophes. Peace is not found in a piece of paper, it is found in people. That's according to UN Chief Antonio Guterres, who was addressing an open debate on diversity, state building and the search for peace. That debate was organized by Kenya, who holds the rotating council presidency this month at the UN Security Council. The meeting, chaired by Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, was held because most situations on the Security Council's agenda arise from internal conflicts in which identity issues, whether ethnic, racial, religious or socio-economic, play a huge part.
Is not found in a piece of paper. It is found in people. More specifically, a diversity of people from different backgrounds coming together to chart a common course for a country. Parties to conflict can agree to end hostilities. They can agree to begin the long process of rebuilding a country, and they can even join forces to reconstitute a government. But without including a wide range of diverse voices at every step of this process, without bringing all people along, any peace will be short-lived.
The belligerents in Ethiopia should enter into a permanent ceasefire and engage one another in an inclusive national dialogue, precisely to agree on what they should do together to achieve the very important and noble goal of unity in diversity. At the end of the Biafra War in Nigeria in 1970, the victorious national leaders announced that they would follow a policy of no victor, no vanquished. I believe, Chairperson, that this is exactly what Ethiopia needs.
Many countries today seem unable to manage diversity. We have built a global system that increases divisions between, but also within nations. A system that believes there are races or genders which are inferior or superior, or religions that are closer to God than others. Consequently, many of the conflict situations before our Security Council are either directly or indirectly a consequence of poorly managed, identity-defined grievances.
Members of the ECOWAS sub-region are canvassing better migration policies that will help harness the potentials of migration, which ranges from job creation, knowledge transfer to poverty reduction. The members who were speaking on the Global Compact for Safe and Orderly Migration in Africa highlight the role of migration in boosting remittances to the region.
Representatives of ECOWAS member states at a meeting to deliberate on safe, orderly and regular migration. The meeting is part of efforts to protect the rights of regular migrants within the region. But even in the face of how to quickly address this, progress at attaining this remains slow, with the COVID-19 pandemic undermining the momentum in spite of its enormous potentials.
The exchange between the member states of ECOWAS is crucial. I am confident that what brings us today is the common and shared approach on migration that we see as a source of opportunities rather than a problem-solving challenge.
Migration has brought about the most exchange of values, cultures, and resources that has contributed to the unity in diversity in the ECOWAS region.
Some of the benefits of regular migration include poverty reduction, job creation, knowledge transfer, unity, and enhanced economic cooperation. These positive sides to migration, however, raise concerns of human rights violation, border governance, trafficking, and detention, amongst others, which is worrisome.
We do not dispute that there are still loopholes in the context of migration within the region. Community citizens continue to migrate irregularly, losing their lives as they embark on these perilous journeys.
Vile stories on international media concerning migrant slavery, as well as mistreatment of young African domestic helps in some Gulf states, call for a reflection on appropriate actions to be taken with a view to finding a lasting solution to this persistent problem that leads to the loss of young Africans.
The consensus here is that a well-managed migration remains an engine room for development and social cohesion. The officials here are hopeful that challenges affecting regular migration will be addressed in the overall interest of its people.
The Spanish Coast Guard has rescued 91 migrants off the Canary Islands. According to officials, one migrant boat had 43 adult males and a second carried 48 adult males. They were all transferred to the port of Aguinegin in a Spanish maritime rescue ship. Spain's Canary Islands have experienced a surge in seaborne migration that has seen thousands make the dangerous crossing from Africa to the Atlantic archipelago. Data from the Interior Ministry showed more than 13,100 migrants had arrived by sea to the Canaries by September 30, more than double the number in the equivalent period in 2020. Finally, on the program, an Egyptian woman who survived an accident with severe burns is now the main model of her own accessory brand. It's a career she pursues to fight social stigma while she runs a support group for people with burns.
37-year-old Hen Elbana was making tea one morning over the stove when the kettle caught fire and burned her arms, neck and chest. 20 years down the line, the entrepreneur has found strength from that experience and created an initiative aimed at supporting victims of burns after her personal struggles with social stigma and finding a stable job. Owner of an online accessory brand called Shirazad, Albana models the items herself to battle misconceptions some have towards people with burn injuries.
Having worked at my job for about a week, the manager came up to me and said that she's sorry, but she didn't want me working with them because one of the children was afraid of the way my arms looked. The child told his father, and then his father threatened to pull him out of school. I was told that this would lead to the nursery losing money because children might be pulled out because of me.
According to her, she's been engaged 4 times and 4 times rejected by her fiancé's families because of how she looks. Today, Albana hopes to empower others like her and enlighten society in the process via her accessories brand and her initiative, Etowa A, through which volunteers and doctors provide medication, treatment, and psychological counsel to victims across the country. One of such victims is Hannah Ashraf, a 21-year-old university student who was burnt when she was just 8 years old after pouring gasoline onto a fire to keep warm during the winter.
When I was younger, I couldn't look at myself. The first time I looked in a mirror was when I was in 12th grade. I never used to take photographs. If I hadn't taken one photograph in primary school, I would have never known what I really looked like.
Ashraf underwent 6 reconstructive surgeries over the years, but even now, she says her appearance makes it difficult to go to school or even work. In just 3 years, Albana's Etowa A initiative has helped around 500 people in Egypt.
And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.